Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and back again is my good friend, Mark Willis. He's a financial advisor, my financial advisor with Lake Growth Financial, talking about the bank on yourself strategy and how you essentially can be your own bank. It's pretty wild. I didn't even know this stuff existed a few years ago, but it's been a game changer for me, my business, and my family. And so today we're talking about the 2-stage rocket system that he is kind of building or just creating with a couple of different policies. And he'll explain it way better than I ever could. But Mark's a really, really good guy. If you are interested in learning more about what Bank on Yourself could do for you or your family, simply just go to ryanrieger.com/bank on yourself, ryanrieger.com/bank on yourself. He or whenever his member of his team will get on a free call with you just to see if this is even a fit for you. But it's awesome. It's been a huge, huge blessing for us. And that's why I have him on, because I want to help more people. So listen to this episode, and this is a fit for you, you think, let them know, and they will be happy to chat with you. But here is my interview with my friend Mark. Mark, welcome back to Streams of Income.
Man, I am so glad to be back. I feel like coming back home every time I get to come on your awesome show. So thank you very much.
I love that. It's an honor to have you, and I have no idea how many times this is now. If I had to guess, I'd say this is 5 or 6.
Yeah, we're going to make it a baker's dozen before we're done.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Well, it's always awesome to have you on. You always bring timely things in the financial world and good information that's a benefit to me and my community. I feel a little selfish. I mean, I love asking you questions that help me out, but I know that that's what I get to do on my show. I get to ask you questions that I'm really thinking about, but then I know other people are thinking about them too. So, but you said before we hit record that you have something called the 2-stage rocket.
Yeah. I think the best part of being a certified financial planner and getting to work with business owners like yourself and real estate investors and more is you get to just have fun. I mean, It's sort of like, remember as a kid, you get in the sandbox and you're just playing with the dump truck and the rockets and the dinosaurs. Well, I felt like I was going to lose all that when I became an adult. But as it happens, I mean, our friendship, both being Hoosiers, maybe it's just, it's in the water for us or whatever. Yes. But I have just loved our friendship, our partnership. And part of the fun is, as an adult, if you're your own boss like we are, is you get to come up with crazy strategies and call them whatever you want. Like I've trademarked a few things like the debt snowbank method, which is a counterintuitive way of paying off your debts. And I haven't technically, don't tell anybody, but I haven't technically trademarked the 2-stage rocket yet. But I'm getting close. I might be getting to that point where I have to go do that because it is so important as a tool for a lot of our business owner clients. And it's a financial strategy that a lot of people who are faced with the good problem of a large chunk of money coming their way, but they need to do something with it quick, and they get the power and the strategy of Bank on Yourself, which, if you'd like, I can kind of tiptoe into what that strategy
probably
is
should do that for people that are just now finding this episode or this podcast and have never listened to anything else. But one thing I want to say real quick, I think that debt snowbank method could be a book.
Oh yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
Have you imagine what we could do? I could, if you want me to, just talking to a friend, I could have a VA team take that, and we could get a transcription of that. And I imagine it would be hard for you to organize that into chapter and verse.
Not bad at all. Yeah. Well, I'd like that a lot. And I especially like the verse. I know you're going for the Bible reference there, but I'm thinking like verse, like music. Let's put this to a song, Yeah. I guess the best thing I can say about Bank on Yourself is that it's a strategy and it's a mindset. To think about banking on yourself means you're no longer banking on your banker.
Mhm.
And you're no longer banking on the government, and you're no longer banking on people who might not have your best interest at heart. And when you bank on yourself, you are taking that control back. You're saying, I don't want to be a thermometer. I'd rather be a thermostat. I want to control the dials of my financial life. I don't want someone else to be at the control switch of my own financial life. And so there's a philosophy and a mindset with the phrase bank on yourself, but bringing it down the ladder some to practical financial tools, Ryan, it's using bank on yourself uses a 200-year-old asset. It's an asset that's increased in value through booms and busts, every market cycle, stagflation, inflation, deflation, market drops, depressions, recessions, market booms, and it's dividend paying whole life insurance of all things.
Yep.
Now, I'm a certified financial planner. I never thought I'd be talking about whole life insurance when I thought about compelling financial strategies. I used to think, like many people, that it was, the stuff that you threw out with the garbage, whole life insurance. But this modernized form of whole life is incredibly strategic and how we can use it as a tool to meet our financial objectives and goals, both as a business owner, but also as a person, as a family man, as an individual. So I'll give you the quick skinny on bank on yourself, then we can get into two-stage rocket.
Yeah.
So bank on yourself, like I said, it's using dividend paying whole life insurance issued from a mutual life insurance company and designed on purpose to have a small death benefit, which is where all the commissions get squeezed out, and flooding the policy instead with capital, cash, money that you can spend on this side of heaven, which is my favorite time to spend money so far anyway. So I like that. So I've got a big pile of money that grows guaranteed every year, no matter what the stock market does. I also love it because it's liquid. It's accessible cash. I can use it for, a vacation to Disney World or a real estate investment. I can use it to pay off an old debt, or I can use it, to send my kid to college. It's really, there's no prohibited transactions. If I've designed it properly, there's going to be some significant tax advantages on the policy. And of course, it is life insurance, so it'll automatically create a gift to my family or favorite charity when I decide to graduate. Real
quick question: was this created by a life insurance company or an agent, or that saw a way to create something creative?
Funny enough, it was created by a lumberjack.
Okay.
A gentleman named Nelson Nash. He wasn't technically a lumberjack.
I've heard you mention his name before, but I've never dug into the history at all.
Yeah. It's a cool story. He was a real estate investor and a forester. And he was, on the bathroom floor praying to God because he was in debt up to his eyeballs when interest rates went up to 18%. Remember the last time our country went through a major inflationary cycle, the Federal Reserve eventually raised interest rates to, double digits. And that caused all the mortgages that had variable loans to go from, 4% or whatever up to 18%. Wow. And he got caught, like a deer in the headlights with all this debt and had no way to make that monthly payment. So he was on the bathroom floor praying. And he says, and he's passed away, so this is in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker. He says, I heard a voice say, you have everything you need to solve your problem, but you look at things the way everybody else does. And then he remembered that he had all this money in these whole life policies that he had set up that had super low interest rates on them. So what he did was he had been paying pennies into those policies. So he started flooding them with money, cash, dumping money into them. And he used that to borrow against. He became his own banker and he paid off all of his snakes, all of his banksters.
That's awesome.
All the mortgage companies. So that's the origin story.
That quote is powerful. You have everything you need. You've just been thinking like everybody else.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's true for lots of parts of our life, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. We could have a whole episode about that, but I know that's not what you came to talk about. But that's a mindset thing right there.
Sure is. Yeah.
I think differently.
Yeah. Well, and that's our kind of a theme of our podcast, Not Your Average Financial Podcast. We want folks thinking different.
Yeah.
Because if we're just doing what everybody else is doing, if you follow the herd, you're going to get slaughtered.
Yes.
So, watch out for the herds. So, okay. So we've kind of covered bank on yourself and whole life. What did I forget, or what do you want to add to that?
No, that's all good. I think if I always like to sometimes say how it's been how it practically works for me for folks to get their head around it, because I'm not a financial planner. But essentially, it's a store of money that I can pull from. And let's say I'm investing in my business, so I need money to buy Amazon inventory. And so I can double dip. I can go pull money from the policy, buy my inventory, earn a return on that. But the money I'm borrowing against the policy. The money stays there and is still earning interest, even though I took it out. So it's earning interest as if I never touched it. And that, to most people, that blows their minds, and they think that's not possible, but it is, and it's awesome.
You bring up a great point, and I just glossed right over it, man. So thank you for bringing me back there. You're right. One of the biggest pieces, and the reason why I purchased several of these, was for what you just said. When I borrow against this policy for any reason, again, to buy some real estate or to pay off a debt or go to Disneyland, my policy will continue to compound and grow even on the capital I borrowed. So if I've got $100,000 of cash value and I borrow 70 grand out to go invest, my policy is still growing on the full $100,000.
Yep.
As if I hadn't touched a dime of the money.
Yeah.
And you're right, man. That is sort of like double dipping. That's probably not a technical term.
You're earning interest on the policy still. Plus you're openly earning a return in your real estate investment. And you never have to pay it back if you don't really want to. Yeah. You showed me how it works it'll grow much faster and better if you pay it back. But if you don't, it'll just come off the death benefit.
That's right.
Which is crazy.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
That's right. Yeah. You've got complete control. Again, you're the thermostat in your financial life, rather than somebody else cranking the dial on the heat in your room. So, with that, maybe I should, if folks' minds aren't already blown, let's see what else we can, the kind of damage we can do here.
For sure. Let's do it.
There's a strategy that we've since recently, in the last 6 to 8 weeks or so, have really been talking about on the interwebs, and we've used it with clients for years. But we've never really talked openly about it until recently. So I thought maybe I'd come on Streams of Income and talk about it because it's been a really powerful tool in the toolbox. So if folks are really hearing what we're saying, you might already be thinking to yourself, well, I could use it for this, or hey, I could use it for that. And I'm going to try my best to keep as simple as possible on a short podcast what would be really a very complex conversation around taxes and more. But I'm going to use the analogy of a rocket. Okay. And I'm going to also quickly show you how terrible I am as a rocket scientist, because I do not know rockets like I'm sure they would. In fact, I've got a few clients that are aerospace engineers, and they're like, Mark, this 2-stage thing, it sounds great. And it worked back when the shuttle was a thing, but we're doing different things now. So I get it. But here it is, 2-stage rocket. Imagine a rocket on the launch pad, and you're trying to get to space. What does it do? Well, there are 2 parts to the rocket. There's the first part of the rocket that basically shoves you into the air. It's super liquid. It's instantly ignitable. You're pumping yourself into the air, getting over the gravity and inertia of this giant, massive rocket, and you're pushing yourself into the air. And at some point, you get to that certain point in the stratosphere, and it disconnects from the rest of your rocket, and the second stage rocket, the afterburners or whatever, kick on and shoot you out into space, get you all the way out there. So that's the 2-stage rocket in practical terms. Now with the policy, let's talk about this. So the first thing to realize is that you can be insured and own more than one policy on yourself. A lot of people don't realize that. You can have 2 policies or 10. Nelson Nash had 42 policies when he passed away. So,
and is that basically, as your income grows, your taxable, what did you just call it?
Your insurable limit.
Insurable limit grows. Is that right?
That's right. Okay. Yeah. It's the same. Yeah. So as you see yourself being able to save more money, realize that your money has to live somewhere. It can't just float out in space. It's got to live. It's going to live in a checking account or a brokerage account or a 401k. And where you put your money will necessarily make it act differently. So a 401k acts different than a hedge fund, which acts different than a checking account or a shoebox under your bed. So being thoughtful about where do you want your money to live is a big part of the financial planning conversation that I have with clients. A 2-stage rocket is really, in my practice, is 2 policies. a single premium policy and a recurring premium policy. So two policies. All right. So stage one of our two-stage rocket is a single premium policy. This is literally one dump in lump sum of cash. You put it in there one time. You never have to add to it ever again. And then the second recurring premium might be what you can afford to put in there either on a monthly basis or once a year.
Okay.
So these two work together. They're actually conjoined in many ways, and their functionality is different, but they work together to get you out into space. So I'll use an example. I had a recent 40-year-old who put in a good chunk of money, $400,000, into a single premium policy. Now, guys listening, please understand you could take a zero off that number or even two zeros off that number. And all of this is directly proportional. You could also add zeros to the number. It's all proportional. He happened to have 400 grand from the sale of a house, but maybe you've got 40 grand, or maybe you've got 10 grand or another number. It's all proportional. Okay. So he puts in 400,000 and he immediately had access to $378,000.
Wow.
Super liquid for life insurance.
Yeah.
And he had a $1.7 million death benefit, which is, what is that? That's 4 times as much as he had put in there day one.
Yeah. Isn't that something real quick? Like a lot of people buy and sell a home all the time. Like, is that something that you would recommend if they have time to make the policies happen, if they're going to sell a house and soon after buy a house, to take that money they've received, put it in a policy, and then when they need the down payment, they just pull it right back out?
Well, if it's a down payment conversation, maybe, yeah. I need to know the whole story, of course, but
let's say that same guy, 400,000, he's going to need 300,000 of it for his next home, down payment for his next home.
Yep.
You would still recommend somebody doing that same plan, right?
Well, like everybody's different, right? So the word recommend is a loaded term for CFP land, but I will say I can't give investment advice, whatever, but I can say this guy did that. Okay. That's what he did. He sold his house, put in 400,000 immediately. And in fact, he was going to just downsize. So he was downsizing his house. He put that 360,000, he took out 360,000, put it into a multifamily real estate property.
Okay.
And then waited 8 years to let that thing just sort of pay out distributions. And then they exited the syndication deal, the real estate deal, 8 years later. And remember, his policy continued to grow and compound, even though he had borrowed most of the money out.
Wow.
And he earned $107,000 on his 400 grand. So his 400 grand grew to $507,000, even though he had the giant loan against the policy.
Wow.
And he got all the appreciation from the multifamily syndication deal. So it's an incredible tool, that first stage rocket.
Yes.
Wow. What's the downside? Why shouldn't everybody just do that? Well, it's what's known as a modified endowment contract. And I'm looking at my time because I'm not going to go down all the way down the tax rabbit hole, but there's some tax advantages that we lose on the first stage rocket. Yeah. But here's the glimmer of hope. So what is the downside? It's not 100% tax free in your later years. Gains on single premium policies are taxable. Recurring premium policies, you can get access to the gains through a loan, 100% tax free. So there's no taxes on a recurring premium policy. We'll get to stage 2, the recurring premium, in just a minute. But with stage 1, it's taxable if there are gains. Well, guess what? The first 3 or 4 years, there are no gains on purpose with this policy. Remember, he put in 400 grand. He only accessed, 360. That's less than 400. So he had no taxes on his transaction to buy that multifamily deal.
Yeah.
So far, are you with me? Anything you want to ask about?
By the way, I have more than, I can go past 2:00 if you can, but if you can't,
okay.
Whatever. No, we're good.
All right. I guess I could go a little bit after 2:00, but I'll have to stop pretty quick. But okay. So I won't rush too much, but I won't bore your audience either. I'll try to keep
this
things
is good
moving.
stuff. I always enjoy talking to you because I always learn something. So
thanks, man. Well, hey, so this guy is seriously pumped because he just took one asset, his house, turned it into 2 assets, his policy and this multifamily deal at the same time.
Yes.
And even though he paid some policy loan interest, which worked out to about 2%, annual percentage rate of about 2%, his money earned more than he spent in interest.
Yes.
The fancy word here, and you know this word well, is arbitrage.
Yep.
he earned more than he spent. And it was actually, he made 107 grand in his policy. He spent about 54 grand of that in interest. So he still came out ahead by about $53,700.
Yeah.
That's stage one.
Wow.
Now, again, in about year 4, he starts to have gains. And if he was to borrow from stage one after about year 4, he would have a gain on a receipt of gain, which would be taxable to him. So stage one sort of starts to run out of fuel, let's say, or liquid money in about the 4th year.
Okay.
So good news, he also smartly started a recurring premium policy back when he was 40 years old, when he started stage one. He also started stage 2. He's been pumping that one full, and he hasn't really been borrowing from stage 2, this recurring premium policy. Let's say he's throwing in a number that's comfortable for him. All right. And maybe that's 20 grand a year. Maybe he can do that with his business. Again, feel free to add a 0 or take away a 0 there.
Sure.
And at that point in year 4 or so, if he needs more money for another venture or real estate deal or paying off a debt, he has a choice. He's got a major loan on stage 1, so he really doesn't need to borrow much from there. Plus, it would be taxable if he took another loan from there. So he's going to borrow from stage 2's Rocket, the second policy, the recurring premium policy. It's not a MEC, and you can access both principal and gains tax-free. So now he's got sort of a portfolio of these 2 policies that can work together. He simply repays the loan on stage 1. Over time, your profits from this real estate deal has to go somewhere. So he uses that money to pay back the loan. And he takes new monies as he needs it for other business investments or kids' college from stage 2. That's the one that's going to be his real workhorse for the decades to come. That's where he's going to go out into space and conquer Mars or whatever else. He's going to use that second stage rocket to do everything he wants it to do. And then if he wants to, he can always pull money from stage 1 as a backstop, as an emergency backstop, if he needs to. So these are how the 2-stage rockets thrusters work together.
Yes.
Do you have any questions or any aha moments as I went through that?
I don't think so. I wish I had like a panel of people. They'd probably be asking a bunch of questions, because I'm trying to just bring this. It adds on to the knowledge I have about all this stuff. And I know my mom created a single policy when Dad passed away last year. She had some money from another policy that she didn't want to continue because it wasn't any good, and she put it into a single. And she also has one of the monthly that I think we took over. No, this is all good. I don't know any questions I should be asking, or if I was like brand new at this that you're hearing people ask.
Well, no, I think the best thing we can just decide first is, what do we need the money doing for us? If we need all the money doing so, or almost all the money, then stage 1 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If we needed, if he didn't need that large chunk of money for the real estate syndication deal, maybe we could have spread that 400 grand into a recurring premium policy and avoided the MEC, provisions for stage 1 as well. If we could have taken 4 years, let's say 3, 4, 5 years, spread that money in over a course of 4 or 5 years, then even stage 1 could be tax-free as well. But he wanted that money, like we needed it yesterday. We've got the real estate deal coming. So he was comfortable with that, but realized that your 2-stage rocket might actually be a little bit different design, where we could avoid the MEC limit. The MEC limit, modified endowment contract, I'll keep this brief. Back in the 80s, guess what? Congress figured out that very wealthy people were pumping lots of money into single premium whole life insurance. Now, right there, that should tell your audience that if the super wealthy were doing it, and if Congress had to put some limits on how good if Congress puts a limit on something, it's usually because it's good for us.
Yeah.
All right. So when they realized what was happening, they passed the TAMRA Act of 1988, and it limited the tax advantages on single premium policies. And Congress said, you got to put money in for a couple of years there for us to call this thing life insurance instead of calling it an endowment. Endowments have a slightly different tax environment than life insurance does. Life insurance has enjoyed incredible tax-free nature for over 100 years and continues to do so today. So
a question.
Please realize
also on that, I'm trying to think of because I know the MEC is typically what you've taught me is like, that's not a good thing. You don't want that because one of the big benefits of Bank on Yourself is it's tax-free income. So in this guy's instance, he put 400,000 in. He was immediately able to pull out 378, right? That's the number he could have taken. So in essence, does that mean his money that he got from the sale of the house, essentially it's almost like he got a life insurance policy. You said $1.7 million death benefit?
Yeah.
So that extra $22,000 that would obviously fees and all that. So for 22 grand, he got a $1.7 million life insurance policy.
He's 40 years old. So if you're 65, you can still do this, but your death benefit might be, 900 grand, but that's still more than 400 grand.
Yeah.
It's an
so it's
incredible way to leave
almost like a free or very, very, tell me if I'm looking at this the right way. It's almost like I got the money from the sale of the house. I get to invest it in something else, but for a very small amount, I got an extra huge death benefit policy that will pass on to my family.
It's even a little better than that because by year 3, by the end of year 3, he's already got $411,000 of cash value at that point.
Plus he's getting gains. Wow.
Plus he's getting gains. So how much should it cost him by the third year?
So Mark, it's basically a free $1.7 million policy.
I'm always hesitant to use that F word or any F word on a podcast. But no, you're in essence, he had life insurance. Yeah.
He got paid to have a $1.7 million death benefit. It took him a little while to get to that mark, that 3-year mark. Wow. And
there's no market risk in the policy. So the stock market could have been burning to the ground over these next preceding 3 years or whatever. But his whole life insurance policy was, even on a predictable and even guaranteed schedule, going to grow for him. Now, the real estate deal might have crashed and burned. We don't know the answer to that, right? But in this scenario, he's seeing his cash value grow.
So the only risk is that he not even a risk. It's like, are you okay, client, with not having access to that $22,000 for 3 years?
There you go. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
And I like to think of it this way. When do we ever use every single dollar we have?
No.
I usually keep something in cash, in a cash position. When I'm investing, like even if I was to just go and invest in a real estate deal, I wouldn't put every last penny into that real estate deal. I'd keep some in, not invested in sitting in cash for just in case, right? Wow. The policy is my just in case in that regard. So yeah, but for folks that want to learn more about this, every situation is different. Everyone's health is different. Maybe we're able to spread that money out over 4 years and avoid the MEC completely, even on stage 1. Or maybe you're aggressive and you want to get that money up in the real estate space right away, and we're okay with the MEC. We had a guy, he renovated his house. He lives very close to a very famous house. I'll just say it was a very full house. Let's just say it's close to that one. He renovated this house to the tune of $900,000, not the full house, but nearby in the same neighborhood. He renovated a house that cost $900,000 for the renovations. Guess what? He dumped that money from a brokerage account, which was getting beat up in the markets. He dumped that money into stage 1 and then borrowed much of it out to go and renovate the house. And then simultaneously, he set up a monthly premium on a separate policy, his stage 2. And he'll be repaying that renovation on that house for many, many years until he sells it, maybe. So he'll never get taxed on the single premium policy if he never pulls the gains out. And he just lets that first stage rocket be his death benefit money. Then that's all tax-free. Death benefits, even on MEC policies, are tax-free.
Okay, so real quick, let's say this 40-year-old guy has 5 policies and they're all like, millions of dollars. Like at some point, it's like your family doesn't even need that. Like, is there any way that while he's still living, you can actually sell your life insurance policy to somebody else for less, for cash?
You can do that, yeah. Sometimes they call that a viatical or life settlement. But here's the thing: I've never seen a family say no, thank you. That's
okay. No, but like, let's say like he's got 1.7 million, and let's say he's got a couple other policies that are $3 million total. Yeah. He has a business idea or has some more real estate to invest in. He's got this 1.7 million one out there. Can he essentially sell that to somebody?
He can.
Or
wow. Yeah, you could sell it, get some cash, and then do something else with that cash.
Give me a quick idea of how much, just all off the top of your head, what you think a $1.7 million policy on a 40-year-old, how much cash could somebody get out of that?
Not much when you're 40, because what's the odds that that investor is going to have to wait a long time
Yeah.
But if you're 70, then yeah, you might be getting a good chunk on that death benefit. But here's another idea.
Sorry to take it a crazy way. I'm just these random questions I come up with when we talk.
There's whole industries out there for life settlements out there that where you can buy and even invest in life insurance policy. I don't do that personally or offer that through my firm, but you can do that. It's an asset class that the wealthy do. But I've never met a family that said, "Hey, you know what, Mark? Send the insurance money back. We got way too much inheritance here."
Right.
And my wife says she wants a pay raise if I slip on the banana peel, if you know what I mean. And then second, if you feel like your family is going to be spoiled with too much, one, you can spread it out with a trust, or two, you can give it to any foundation or charity and see the world changed. I mean, if you've taken care of your family, what's the next step? Take care of your extended family, then take care of your community, then take care of the people that God's called you to, and then take care of the whole world. If you can manage all that, take care of the whole world. Wow. But start with your family first and then grow from there. I've seen folks who left their death benefits to their favorite charity, and I'm glad to say that their mission is going to continue.
If you gave one of your death benefits away to a charity, do you get the tax write-off now, or how does that work?
Oh, well, you would. No, there's no tax write-off because it's income tax-free in the first place. Yeah, it's an income tax-free death benefit for the charity. So it's not the
same as giving them $1 million.
I will tell you this, though. If you give the ownership of the policy to a charity, okay, so now they own the money in that policy, and you're giving them the money to then put into that policy. Sure, we have got clients that donate money to a charity that the money is allocated toward a premium, ensuring the donor's life. Think about how charities lose money every year because the donor dies.
Yes.
So insure your donors. Insure, if you're a charity listening, insure your best donors, because you can use the cash value as the charity. I'm talking to the charity owner here, or the charity manager. Insure your donors, and then let the donor donate money to you as they always have, but put that money into a policy. And then when donor passes on, that's a great gift to leave. There was a church that was about to go out of existence. Yeah. And right in Chicago here, and one of the best givers died. She left her life insurance to the church. Wow. And that sustained them and helped them. They're still going strong now today as a result.
Wow. I could talk to you about all kinds of what ifs and crazy things.
Lots of fun ideas there.
I love the creative stuff. Wow. I know you need to go.
Yeah, what mutual funds, what mutual funds do any of this, man?
I don't. You know? Oh my gosh. Oh, guys, if you're interested in talking with Mark or his team, it's ryanrieger.com/bank on yourself. But I'll put a link in the show notes too. Man.
Yeah, ryanrieger.com/bank on yourself. If you'd like to have a 15-minute phone strategy session, we don't charge for that conversation. We just want to get to know if this tool even makes sense. It's not a good fit for everybody. We've talked some today about the costs and considerations, so we're not painting this as a panacea, but it's an incredible tool for those where it makes good sense. Yeah. So that was ryanrieger.com/bank on yourself.
Love it. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's always an honor. It's a super honor to be your friend and to be your buddy in business and helping people think different.
Same here. Thanks, man.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.